Hello, everyone. It is welcome to Storytime with Jaha Zainabu. This is Storytime with Jaha Zainabu 5. Wow. I am Jaha Zainabu, and today I'm going to talk about writing. And not necessarily the craft of writing, but actual writing and getting it done, actually, like getting it out of your mind and into the world. Out of your mind and into the world. Sometimes that like falls on people like it means you have to produce or publish a book, or you have to make a movie or a play or something like that. But really getting it out of your mind is really getting it out of your mind. The first step could just be a journal. They were just talking about writing the stories down. And let's say writing the stories down might be a little intimidating for you. Talking the stories out, how's that? Setting up your camera and talking into your phone, how's that? Let's say that's a little intimidating for you. Okay, turning on a recorder and just talking. Take that first step. I don't know where you are on your journey to releasing your stories, but for some people you might be at that would be a big step. Uh, just recording it. I had a friend who would speak into her recorder at like 3 o'clock in the mornings when she was up. And she would just tell stories in her recorder. And she would send me the audio. And I would transcribe them for her and send them back to her. And after a while, here's the thing, I would transcribe them exactly how she spoke them. I didn't edit them for her. I didn't do any of those things. I just, whatever she said, whatever curse word she put in, I put in. Whatever ums and ahs she put in, I put in. And it got to a point where she didn't need to do that and send that to me anymore. Her words were good enough. I think that she may have had it in her head where those words and how she spoke them, that wasn't story enough. It is story enough. Not only is it story enough, it is grand story. Zora Neale Hurston was queen of telling a story how we spoke, how the people around her spoke. And she's Zora Neale Hurston. So just do it. Just do it. Maybe taking on doing it every day might be a little daunting to say. Okay, set aside, okay, on Mondays, that's when I write. On Mondays. And not all day. On Mondays for an hour a day, for 30 minutes every Monday, I write. Easy peasy. So I do encourage journaling every day because I do. Just because life happens every day. And my journals are where I get a lot of my ideas from. A lot of them. Just small, seemingly insignificant things that happen that I want to use in a story one day. I don't know when I'll use it, but I might overhear a conversation in a supermarket, and I might just jot that conversation down. As a matter of fact, one specific thing that I happened, this was years ago, and I just jotted it down in my journal, and I'm glad that I did. I've never used it in a story, but I fully intend to one day, because this would make, I don't know why it struck me as like that would be a dope thing to put in a story. But I was walking down, I was on Venice Beach, walking down along the boardwalk alone. So I'm walking down and I see this woman in my, peripheral. And she just has a certain look. And I see her quite focused on me. I don't know why. In my mind at the time, I had it that she was going to ask me for money or something like that. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel endangered. I didn't feel any of those things, but I did know that she was focused on me. So I kept walking and I didn't make eye contact. But I just prepared to give her whatever change I had, or not, depending on the interaction. Anyway, so I see her and she is getting closer and closer and closer and closer to me. And then she is in front of my face. And at that point, I thought, okay, here comes the ask. She wants a quarter, she wants $1. Instead, she looked me in my face and said, "It wasn't my pussy he ate." Who knows why she said that? Who knows who she thought I was, but that is what she said, and then walked away. It wasn't my pussy he ate. Like, ma'am, nobody, never mind. Anyway, so I just jotted that down. Like, one day I am going to recreate this scene. Excuse me, I never did, but maybe one day I will. So this is why I say, sorry, this is why I say do it every day. Because it's the little things that happen in a day. And things like that obviously don't happen every day. But it is maybe you stay at home every day. Maybe your routine is to get up and make the bed and clean the bathroom and vacuum the rug. What if you pay attention to those thoughts while you are cleaning the rug, while you are scrubbing the toilet, while you are washing the dishes and making the bed? Are you angry? Are you resentful of your life? Are you happy about your life? Are you thankful that this is your life? Jot down those thoughts. You have them. You do have the thoughts. I think that we have it that that's not important enough, that that's not story enough. But you don't know what your characters, let's say you're writing a story, you don't know what characters you're going to create. And what if one of your characters is a woman or man who stays at home, and his routine is quite the same as yours? That would be great information. Be great fodder for your story. And while said character is mopping the floor, he is thinking about, or while said character is cleaning the bathroom sink, she is plotting on her escape. Or you don't know. You don't know. So the everyday is important to me. All of these things are my thoughts. There is no there's no rule. I'll say there is no rule. But for me, journaling is important. And you just don't know when. And also, what if nothing happens with these journals, but that you leave them and pass them on? Like, that's exciting too. When my grandmother passed away, I got two of her journals, and she didn't call them journals; they were date books. And in one of the date books, she wrote that I was a baby, and my mother dropped me off, and apparently I cried all night. And just reading that in her handwriting, um, after she had gone, her story of me as a baby was interesting. You don't know. I could I could honestly spend the hour giving examples on the significance of journaling, of because that's first step to getting it out. Getting it out in the world is just like a thing to me. Um, I remember one time I I don't know why I said this, but I was on some stage and I said, I will go to heaven poemless because I will leave them all right here. That is my commitment, right? And I stick to that. I don't know if I'm going to go to heaven poemless or that I'm going to heaven. No, just kidding. But I am going to leave a lot of work here. I will say that. I wrote down, that's what I'm glancing at. I wrote down a few notes because I didn't want to leave anything out. And I promise you I will leave something out because there's so much to talk about when it comes to writing and getting it out. There's so much. So the next thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about ghosts. Yeah, ghosts. I call them ghosts. Often when we write like someone is over our shoulder that is maybe some kind of authority figure over us and they're reading our work. You know, like, don't say that. Don't put that in the story. Some dead grandmother, mother, parent, sibling, uncle. Don't you tell that story. Don't you. It is your journal and you will cry if you want to. How about that? Recognize that that is happening. Recognize that that is happening. If that is happening to you, I hold that at some point it probably happens to all of us. I think that some people give more energy, voice, significance to the ghost, but I think that at some point, when we are telling a daring story, it happens. Say we are writing, especially if you sit down to write a memoir, your story. Everybody did not treat you kindly. Let's put that out there. They should have. They didn't. And you may hear them in your head telling you to leave that part out. You're going to listen or you won't. My suggestion is that you do not listen because here's the thing. I am not saying, when I say put your story out there, I am not saying stand on stage and in front of 3,000 people or 300 people or 3 people. I am not saying that. I am saying get it out of you. Getting it out of you is still putting it into the world. I think it being that phrase "better out than in" is real, and it occurs to writing. Get it out of you. Write like, sorry, write like nobody is going to read this. So if so when you sit down, have that conversation with yourself. Have that self-talk. Nobody is going to read this. Nobody will know I said this. I am just getting it out of me. I am getting it out of my body, my gut, my head. I am getting it out of me. That is the only purpose. And if later you decide, you know what, I got it out of me, it is in black and white, and I didn't die, I'm okay. Maybe you will use it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you will. Maybe you will give that story to a fictional character. Maybe you'll do that. I do that. When I find that when I write fictional stories, if the character is a woman who has a child, I usually give her a daughter because I have a son. I think, you know what, I say usually, but the truth is I think I always do. I don't think I've ever written a story where the character, if she had a child, she had a son. Just because, like I said, I have a son, and in the story, anything can happen to her child. I am superstitious. To know me is to know that. And I don't want to, I don't know. I gotta evaluate that. Maybe it is my superstition. But if I usually give my characters a daughter. And anything can happen. And when I say anything can happen to, stall me out. Don't come for, yeah, anything can happen. That, you should, for me, because things happen in the world. You know, things happened to me as a girl child. That are important. Things happen to me that shouldn't happen. And that story is important. And I may or may not want to tell the story about me. I tend to tell the story about me because that's what I do, but I grew to that. I didn't start there. I grew to that. But let's say I'm not there. I might have them happen to my character's daughter just to get the story out. But recognizing the ghosts are important. Like, when you stop. And also, you might find that when the ghosts show up, that is also when you take breaks. The ghosts show up and you get confronted and you think, now's a good time for a burger. And then it's weeks, months, or never that you pick up your story again. Pay attention. So so work on ignoring the ghosts, because you're not going to kill them. They're already dead, boo. They are already dead and hovering. You will not kill them. They will probably, those voices may never go away. That's real. So, they may never go away. But you can have conversation with them. Like, you know what, Uncle, Charlie, um, you know, I was 7 and I shouldn't have been sitting on your lap. How about that? Um, to be honest with you, a story about, or a journal entry about your conversation with the ghost is a badass story, right? Right? Now, keep in mind, it is a story that no one is going to read, if that helps you. It is just you getting it out, if that helps you. And you might go back and go, whoa, whoa. Do not worry if you are not, if you are not the speaker, you know what I mean? English is not your jam, or whatever your language is, just writing things out. Language, written language is not your jam. Don't worry about the punctuation. We'll do that later. Don't worry about the poetic devices. Do not concern yourself with extending the metaphor. That will happen later, or it won't happen. The point is the story. The point is the story. When we think of when I think of really great storytellers, my God, I think of I had an Uncle Bubba who passed away. And let me see. I don't know that Bubba ever even graduated from high school. I don't know that he went to middle school. I don't remember. My mother had 10, 11 siblings. And I don't remember one single solitary story of my Uncle Bubba in school. Not one. Not one. So I don't know that he went to school. But baby, he could tell a story. He and his homeboys would hang out. This is in my lifetime. This is how I knew him. They would, I grew up in Long Beach, California. And Bubba and his crew would hang out in front of, it's not there anymore, but Hanson's liquor store on Atlantic Avenue. And that crew would hang out and do and smoke things. Let's just put that there. And they would just tell stories. And I thought it was fascinating. My father was hands down the world's greatest storyteller. Fight me on it, okay? And my father also not the literary scholar, but just was an incredible storyteller. My God, incredible storyteller. My father was often, I don't know, probably always not sober, but he just could tell a story. And he would call me, and I think I have a YouTube clip of the story called The Ocean, which was my father's last story to me. And I'll tell it quickly here. At the time, my father was living in Lancaster or Little Rock, California. I was living in McDonough, Georgia. So this is 2009. Yeah, because he died in 2009. Yeah. And my father would always start stories with, "Verily, verily, I say unto you." And he said that he started stories like that because he and Jesus were a lot alike, and they were jokesters, according to my father. And they needed to have some tagline to let their audiences know that they were being serious now. And my father's and Jesus's was, verily, verily, I say unto you. So he called me, and it is about 3, 4 o'clock my time. And hello, and he starts in with the story. Hello. Verily, verily, I say unto you. What, Dad? And he said, the shark got a bad rap. Why, Dad? He said, well, you will never be walking down a dark alley and, you hear some keys rattling behind you and you turn around and a shark. You will never hear some rattling in your kitchen in the middle of the night and then you go downstairs and a shark. The only way the shark gets you is if you go to the ocean. So the trick to life, this is my father's story, the trick to life is to know your ocean. If you are a crackhead, you can't live by the crack house because that's your ocean. If you're a shopaholic, you can't live by the mall because that's your ocean. And if the shark does eat you, it's never the shark's fault because the shark just thinks you're food. And damn it, if that's not a motherfucking story, right? And some shit to live your fucking life by, right? And so I wrote that down. Like, I could not write that down quick enough. And had I not written it down, it would not exist in the world. My father died in 2009. That was the last story he told me. And I get to live with that. And so do you now. And so that's why when I say write every day, like things like that happen that, things like that happen. So I'm looking at my note and I wrote down, do not set out to write the poem, story, or movie that will change the world. A shout out to me and my note taking skills. And what I mean by that is, like, we sit down and we make it all proper and formal, and we sit down at the desk or the kitchen table or wherever we choose to write. And, we start like, we sit down like we set out to write like it is going to be the Odyssey. It's not, boo. It's going to be your journal entry. Let's keep it simple, stupid. It is going to be, that page for the day, love. Like, make it easy on yourself. Because don't create a situation for you to, get discouraged, and just like, oh, I'm not Shakespeare. And then you just don't write. Oh, I'm not whoever you think is a good writer. You're not. That's the thing. You're not. And guess what? They aren't you. Everybody has an audience. There is let me think. Say if you're a poet, say you are a poet and you're a single mother of 3, and you work 2.5 jobs, and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, and I'm just creating some shit out of my head. I don't know. But say that's you, and you sit down and you write poems about your life. There are people who will listen to you that might not ever care to hear Maya Angelou's poem, ever. Maybe, maybe they don't feel like a phenomenal woman or whatever else. I mean, I don't know. What I'm saying is your story matters. And the other thing that I am saying is that you are not the only one in your situation. You're not. And let's pretend you are. Let's pretend you're the only dot dot dot. There is someone who will see themselves inside your story. So your story matters. Your story matters. Be consistent. Whatever if Mondays are your days to write, put it on the calendar. Put it on the calendar. That is Mondays from 3 to 4 is when you write. That means that if you work a job where you can't have phones on at your job, then phones off from 3 to 4 on Monday. If you can do it for your job, you can do it for yourself. Yeah, but be consistent. Do it whatever you say. I will, always repeat this. I would suggest every day, just because you don't know what could come up that day. Things happen every day, and they only seem small. And you know what? Here's the thing about small things. There are mostly small things. How often does 9/11 happen? There are mostly, I should say, small things. Write about those things. And you're a storyteller. Nobody says you cannot put 10 on it. Okay? Nobody says you cannot create a monster that came in the room and slashed the bullies, and nobody says you can't do that. And let's say you don't want to do that. Let's say you don't want to create monsters. Let's say you don't want to create, you don't want to put 10 on it. Your simple life is story enough. It just is. And how you tell your story counts. Like the many ways you get it out of you counts, just so long as it exists in the world and not just your conversation, not just you telling a friend. I mean that counts, but like that will disappear. Anyone who has played the telephone game will know. You tell a secret. I mean, you say something to someone, and then they say something, and by the time it gets back to you, that is not what I said, boo. So I mean, getting it out. Let's say one day, let me see, your writing time, your creative time is Mondays from 3 to 4. But this Monday, you are coming from the doctor's office and there's an accident on the freeway and you're stuck there. And it's a big deal. And you'll be there for 20-30 minutes. Easy peasy. Pull out your recorder, pull out your phone. You don't have to talk into it. You don't have to look into it. Just pull it out and record it. And, but I don't have my notes with me. I keep my notes in my desk at the crib. That's fine. Right now, we're going to talk about the accident. Right now, we are going to describe the scene. What was the driver wearing? What was the driver driving? Did he seem drunk? Is it raining? Are the roads wet? Use all of your senses. And that's another thing. Use your senses in your writing. What color was it? How did you feel? And the other thing with writing, and if you are using these words, that's fine, because I don't want to give you any excuse to not write. But just think about these things as you are editing or as you are going forward. Try to use words that let me in your world. Just as an exercise. Is this something you have to stick to when you publish your book? No. But just as an exercise, just as gym work, as I call it. Like if I say, how are you? And you say, I'm fine. That doesn't let me in your world. Right? Especially if, let's say I text, how are you? And you text back, I'm fine. It doesn't let me in your world. I don't have tone. I don't have the nuances of a voice or, voice to voice or face to face. But like with your words, what does fine look like? Are you fine? Are you, I am concerned about my child. I am dealing with a health issue and I have very little money and very little time off work, or I don't know. Let me in your world is what I'm saying. I find that I use the word beautiful a lot. And it does not allow you access to my world. So when I say it's a beautiful day, my favorite days are rainy days. Rainy day, not like stormy, but I love a good thunderstorm. To know me, I love a good thunderstorm. But I like gray days. I like sweater weather. I like making things in my crock pot. I like when it's like cozy and you wrap up, and I like days like that. I like the other days too. I like sunny days. But when I say, oh, it's a beautiful day, you might think, oh, it's 85 degrees. It's I don't know, whatever you might think. But me saying it is a beautiful day does not give you access to my world. Let me in. Let me in. And the more you let me in, like, I get comfortable. The juicier the story, you know. And here's the other thing. Start where you fucking feel like it. Start where you are. In Toni Morrison's book, I think it was Paradise. The first line is, they shot the white girl first. Baby, I'm ready. Like, that has me on my seat. I'm sitting up. Like, you know, what white girl? Like, Toni is finna spill it, okay? And Toni is going to take her time spilling it. And I love Toni Morrison. And I love a storyteller that takes her time. Ugh. I am here for it. There's no rush. It's a book. I will come back to it when I can. So take your time telling the story. Nobody's going to cut you off. Take your time. In Beloved, she begins with, the first line was, 124 was spiteful. Like, what's 124? Why did she say spiteful? I think it was spiteful. But 124 was, I think, spiteful. 124, as you begin to know, was the address where she lived. She lived 124, whoop-de-whoop. And 124 was spiteful. And it, for me as the reader, it has my shoulders fall. It has me get comfortable. It has me get ready for a good one. Ooh, for a good one. And so tell the story. And you don't, why am I itching? You don't have to have, this grand vocabulary to tell a good story. You don't. And so some of you just tell the story how you tell the story. Some of you may be dealing with, I want to write, but I don't know what I would write about. And I know people who say that. And oddly, the people who say that I have heard say that, are the people who are like, those are the people who are the life of the party. They can still tell a story. They keep you cracking up. They tell those stories. I think that we have it that those stories have to be spiffied and cleaned up. They don't. That is why you are the life of the party, because you tell these stories how you tell these stories. And if I wanted to read a Toni Morrison story, a Zora Neale Hurston story, a James Baldwin story, I would. And I do. But I also want to hear your story. I work for an organization called Woman Preach. And the CEO, the founder of Woman Preach, is an incredible woman named Valerie Bridgman, Dr. Valerie Bridgman. And at Woman Preach, what she says is, what does God sound like coming from your throat? I love that line. I love when she asks that question. I love because um, the people at Women Preach are they are usually collection of preachers, pastors, leaders of congregations, or not, um, but a lot of them are preachers, um, and often preachers who are women, especially in the beginning, tend to sound like the men because I think that they think that's how preaching is supposed to sound. But what does God sound like coming from your throat? Ooh. What does and I pose that to you. What does God sound like coming from your throat? Because your story is God, is good, is great, is gift. What does um what is your I was in an accident recently. Like 2 weeks ago, I was in a car accident. And I'm fine. I was fine then. There was very minimal damage to my car. And so little that I didn't even call the insurance company. It's like a scratch and not different than the other scratches on my car. Okay, how about that? Um, and I didn't call the insurance company. The accident involved 3 cars. And um, I have just been busy, you know, and I'll be honest, busy sometimes when I say it is also code for I have not felt like responding to the insurance company. I just, in the moment, I was doing something else. And there just wasn't a moment that I wasn't doing something else, like, washing my hair or whatever. Anyway, so Progressive Insurance is one of the other cars insurance company. I don't know which one, but one of the other of the cars has Progressive Insurance. And so I got a text yesterday that read, we cannot complete our investigation without your story. And I like that. Like, you know, there were 2 whole other cars. There were, I think, 3 pedestrian witnesses, but they can't close the books, okay, without your girl's story, okay? My story matters. Like how I saw, because no one was sitting where I was sitting to see what I saw, how I saw it. And ain't that life? Ain't that life? So, I have a younger sister. I mentioned that before. I have a younger sister, and we have the same parents. We grew up in the same house. We did not have the same childhood. I mean, neither of our childhoods was like worse than the other. It's not that. That's not where I'm going. We just didn't have the same experiences. And we talked recently, like, really about that. And so in the conversation, I was like, you were there? She was like, yes, I. And she would tell, stories about things that happened. And I was like, when? And we grew up with our grandparents living around the corner. And a lot of times, when if we weren't at home, we were around the corner at my grandparents' house. And when I was growing up, my mom would I was a cheerleader when I was a little girl. And like every other Friday night, my mom would take the cheerleaders to the drive-in movie. And then we would come back to my house and we'd have a slumber party. And then the next day we'd play in the treehouse. My father built the best tree houses. And we play in the treehouse. That's what we did every other Friday. And so I'm talking to my sister. And I was like, I said, what, now that I think about it, I don't remember you at any of the slumber parties. I don't have one memory of you being at the slumber parties. And she was like, what slumber parties? Apparently she was at my grandparents' house or my aunt's house or somewhere else. And then she said, yeah, I had slumber parties too. And, and I guess my mom took the older children and the younger children didn't come because I don't remember any of the smaller kids there. And my mom and my sister was like, yeah, we had slumber party. I was like, when? I don't remember, so my version of 1367, where I grew up, the address, my version of 1367 is significantly different than her version of things that happened at 1367. And not just the slumber parties. We talked for a long time, and so your story matters. Her story, her version of 1367 matters. I'm curious about it. Well, you know what I mean? Her childhood was not my childhood. We did not go to we didn't go to the same junior high school. We went to the same elementary school, but because we are 4 years apart, while she was on the little playground, I was on the big playground. That's how the school where I went separated the younger children from the older children. So our paths never crossed in elementary school. They wouldn't have crossed in junior high school because, again, I'm 4 years older, and we didn't go to the same junior high school. And then I was out of high school when she was coming into high school. We didn't have the same teachers. There was, she had no experience of, oh, I know your I taught your big sister, or she had no experience of that. We did go to the same church, but I sang in a choir, and I don't remember her. We sang in the kids choir together. I remember that. But then I went on and I sang in the youth choir, and I have no memories, zero, of her being in the youth choir. And she was like, what are you talking about? I sang in the front row. I have zero memories of that. So her story about our childhood, me telling the story about our childhood isn't fair when I say our childhood, because it wasn't hers. So her story matters. I can't speak for her. So tell your story. I don't care how simple it is. I don't care how simple it sounds. Don't let that be a hook for you. Well, I don't have the best vocabulary. Don't let that be a hook, because children tell great stories and they're animated about it. And they are not attached to using $5 words. They're just not. They don't want to, because they want you to understand everything they're saying. Let a child talk about her day or talk about a fight. And then Sheila comes over and she's like, if you and then I was like, wait a minute. And then she grabbed her sweater and she goes over, she punches Tommy in the face. Like it's a thing. And you're like, damn, why wasn't I there? It's a thing. It's an award-winning film. Let little Cindy finish telling it. So tell your story. It doesn't have to be with that much animation, but tell it knowing that you are the only one who can tell your story. The story of the ocean wouldn't exist without my father. And he's the only one who could tell me that story. And what if he didn't? What if the ocean story wasn't significant enough? What if he had it in his head, well, my daughter is a writer and she ain't gonna think that. Well, my father would never give me that much credit, really, and think that his story was not enough. He just wouldn't. Your individuality is your flaws. It is your flaws. Your side of the story dies with you. And when I say, like, tell your side of the story, not in a way that people, mean it when they say, I gotta tell my side, like they have something to prove, like that will validate them in some way, or that will, but tell your story because it is important. It is yours. It is a piece of you. Write it down. Yes, your life. Yeah, your life. Your activity of loading your laundry into the laundry bags and getting on the bus and going to the laundromat. I used to, when I was in LA, I used to ride the bus a lot. And sometimes just for fun. I used to ride the bus and so I have a whole chapbook called Bus Stories. And I would hear some really great stories on the bus. Some were scary, but some were like, wow. One day I was riding the bus and I was on the 210 going south on Crenshaw in LA. I'm on the bus and the bus is regular crowded. It's not too crowded where like everybody is packed and standing room, it wasn't that, but the seats were filled. And an older man got on the bus, or perhaps he was already on the bus, but he began speaking. And he started telling a story about how I wrote it down, and that story is actually published in one of my books. But he started talking about how pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie are different. And how they prepare the certain dish in Texas in the way they just don't do in Louisiana. And he just went on, and he was by himself talking to everyone. And do you know the bus was silenced? Just there, it was quiet. We were listening to his story about beans in New Orleans and how they didn't taste like beans in California, and how fake crab meat is only for salads, and it should never be in gumbo. I mean, it just went on. And maybe that's not a book, but damn it if it wasn't a story. And I went home and I wrote about that as much as I could remember. It is published. What book is that? It's published in my book, 365.2013, a poem a day series. And the reason it is published there is because I blog every day. And it was 2013. It was 2013. So in 2013, I was writing a poem a day. And I would post those poems on Facebook and on my blog. And then in 2015, World Stage Press published those blog entries into a book. And that was that story. The book is right there. That's why I put it right there. And that story was in the book. I'm going to close with the note to celebrate your wins. Celebrate your wins. What's a win? A win is whatever you say it is. So, when you finish a book, when you finish all the pages in the journal, when you were stuck and then you came back. And here's the thing. Oh, you know what? This is what I'm going to close with. I don't believe in writer's block. I absolutely, fight me, come at me in the comments, all the things. I do not believe in writer's block. Okay? I just don't. Because, so you sit down to write and you think to yourself, I don't know what to write about. And then something does show up. I don't know what to write about. That abortion. And then you swipe left. I ain't gonna write about that. I don't know what to write about. That breakup. I'm not writing about that. So you swipe left. I don't know what to write about. Write about your conversation with your boss today when you ask for a raise. Nope, I don't write about that. I don't know what to write about. The thing is, we keep swiping left because we keep thinking that that thing is not important enough or too triggering or sad or funny, and you don't want to write a funny story, or too done before and you don't want to do done before, or too something or not enough something. We keep swiping left. It's the women saying there are no men out here. I want to date, but there are no men. And then the guy holding the door for you at the gas station says, "Hi, beautiful," and that you walk by and you swipe left on. I am not saying date the gas station dude who calls you beautiful. In fact, probably don't date the gas station dude who calls you beautiful. But I'm saying we keep swiping left. There are stories to write. And swiping left a bunch of times and then going, see, there's just nothing to write about, is not writer's block. It is not. is not, there was nothing came to me. It's not. I don't believe that when you sit down and go, I don't know what to write about, nothing comes. I don't. Because even if you have to write about nothing coming up for you is a whole story, baby. A whole story. I don't know why. So it is, this is me writing that story. I'm freestyling, so judge yourselves. Judge yourselves, judge your mama, judge whoever you judge. So 2:35 p.m. I'm in Atlanta. I am sitting down today at my desk because it's Monday and my writing time is on Mondays. And here it is Monday, and I don't know what to write about, but I know that I want to write. I know that I want to honor my commitment. And I'm at a loss for ideas. I don't want to write about my childhood. I don't want to think about my childhood. There were things that happened in my childhood that I'd rather forget. I would rather forget. For some reason, life won't let me forget, though I had a dream the other night. And there was, about me and Sonia walking home from school. And then here comes Jonathan messing with me. Why did he always mess with me? I mean, I'm making shit up, but there's always something to. Nobody says you have to write for an hour straight. Nobody is saying that, boo. Julia Cameron wrote a book called The Artist's Way, which I bigly recommend. I think that it is inappropriately titled because, not inappropriate, but I think that it's mistitled because people tend to think that it is just for artists, and it's not. It's for everybody. But the book is called The Artist's Way, and it's filled with exercises. And one of the exercises is called Morning Pages. And in the Morning Pages exercise, she suggests that you just write for 2 pages straight. Like, don't lift your pencil. Don't be concerned about penmanship because you're not going to revisit it. Just write. And if you don't stop writing though. Don't lift your pen from one word to the next. Just write one long, and if you literally have to write blah, 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 then write that. Write that until the next sentence is, I don't know what I want to write about. This exercise is stupid. I hate ham and cheese. I can't stand Maria. I'm like, fuck, I didn't even know I didn't like Maria. But write it, get things come out of you, because you're not editing them, you're not censoring them, you're just letting the floodgates open, you're just letting it out. So the book is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. The exercise is called Morning Pages. Get it out. Your story matters. You matter. Nobody is saying that you have to, read your story to 9 people or 9,000 people or one other person. Nobody is saying that. I am only suggesting that you get it out of you. I am personally suggesting that you start today. Have a good one, loves. Peace.